Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final round of the Premium Sprint Challenge Series on the World Sim Series platform. As usual, we will greet the drivers and the spectators with two exciting series this quite chilly evening. First of all, we will have the final two sprint races of the BMW Cup, where we already have decided who the champion is, and afterwards we will go for the 45 minutes endurance event, where in the GT3 class the championship will still have to be decided. A nice battle in front of us, and we gather here on the virtual Imola racing circuit located in the town of Imola in Italy. It's a 4.9 kilometer long circuit with 19 corners in total, and we will have 9 BMWs on the racetrack trying to go as fast as possible, battling for the remaining podium places in the overall standings. We have Talianos, who is currently on the provisional pole position. He is fourth in the championship standings, only 1 point behind Matas Mendelis and 12 points behind Simon Speth. And we can see that Talianos currently is on the provisional pole position by 6 tenths against Simon Speth, who is currently third and 1 full second in front of Matas Mendelis. Both of his main rivals are still on the track, trying to go as fast as possible as the time on the clock runs out and the qualifying session will come to an end shortly, with Matas Mendelis trying his best on the medium compound tires to not make any mistakes. Simon Speth approaching the Variante Alta chicane, which has those big, nice curves, and the BMWs are not afraid to jump a little bit into the air just to make the driver go faster around the course of one lap. Was that Matas Mendelis? No, it wasn't. I thought Matas Mendelis has given up already. He has a lot of time to find if he wants to start a little bit further up the order to try and battle it for the second position in the overall standings. Of course, there's the battle not only for second but also for third. Abdelhadi is out of the server. Hopefully he will be back before the start of the first sprint race. Simon Speth crosses the line. He doesn't go faster. He remains third if Abdelhadi gets back onto the racetrack. Maybe he went for a very short break, but not a lot of time is open for Abdelhadi. He qualified quite nicely. We have to check up with Matas Mendelis, who is currently fourth, as you can see in the information screens down the screens. And Matas Mendelis crossing the line to stay third. He goes slightly faster, but he was not able to make up another place, so he's currently third on the list. But if Abdelhadi will have all problems sorted out, he will be back for the race start and to battle and be in the mix with drivers who are battling for the remaining podium places. Jan Nimtz, he took a day off. He's already the champion, so he left all the remaining points for the drivers, making the championship battle a little bit more exciting. Abdelhadi is currently 13th in the championship standings as we wait for the qualifying session to come to an end. Maybe we will take the chance to take a look at the qualifying session results, as we have a couple of black spots on the racetrack. Someone is not willing to be shown on screens. So there's the list of 9 drivers who are ready to start the final race. Simon Speth is third. Talianos took pole position. Abdelhadi second. Simon Speth third. Matas Mendelis fourth. Rahmanian fifth. Grajis sixth. Azikev seventh. Essa eighth. And Luengo is on the final spot on the grid, but the race is still ahead of us as we have a very interesting glitch on the virtual Imola racetrack. on the Assetto Corsa platform, and not the best news for Abdelhadi. Maybe he faced some bigger issues and he's not able to get back in time to see himself and take that spot on the grid, so that's gonna be an empty spot and an open door for Matas Mendeles into turn 1. The first corner is a left-hander, an entry into the chicane, which is Variante Tamborello. Well, the first corner is a very fast right-hander as we see the cars rolling. Almost thought that the drivers are gone off the grid. Let's ride on board with Talianos, who had a decent start. He didn't have a driver besides him, so free track in front of him. And Matas Mendeles, he didn't have the chance to use that free spot. Goes really late on the brakes, makes it to hit that apex, and Matas Mendeles is really here to fight for the second position in the championship standing. Simon Speth has 12 points advantage against Matas Mendeles, and he knows that, well, Simon Speth needs to calmly finish this one out to take that second spot for him. As Matas Mendeles, he did not only struggle in the qualifying session, it looks like he doesn't find the rhythm in the race also. He's currently the driver who is in contention to win the GT3 class in the Endurance Series, but in the BMW M235i class, Matas Mendeles, well, he doesn't feel that much comfortable, and he has to defend against the attacks of Rahmanian. Managed to stay in front. Matas Mendeles shouldn't be worried too much about the longevity of tires in the Sprint Series, although we have the 200% tire wear option for the drivers. 15 minutes is still more than enough to try and abuse those tires, use all the rubber and the grip that they provide, but still, maybe Matas Mendeles tries to be as gentle as possible at the very beginning of this race, to have the tires much fresher than the ones of his rivals towards the end of the race. All speculations by me. Matas Mendeles was not too fast in the qualifying session. It looks like, well, he didn't have a lot of time to put in some practice, but you couldn't say the same thing about Talianos, who is dominating currently in the final round at Imola, and he's looking for his win in, I think that will be first win for Talianos in this championship at the very final round. Of course, huge thanks should go to Jan Nimtz, who decided to take a day off. Simon Speth runs wide and actually goes off the racetrack. This is a chance opening up for Matas Mendeles as he sees Simon Speth go on the gravel in the distance. Simon Speth doesn't have good exit from the gravel, and Matas Mendeles goes up to P2. I think Matas Mendeles will hope for some sort of attack moves from Rahmanian on Simon Speth, just to give him a little bit more breathing room. The qualifying session lap times saw only 0.02 of a second difference per lap between Matas Mendeles and Simon Speth, so this is good news for Matas Mendeles, seeing his best rival not only go off the racetrack, taking his spot, but also in the rear view mirrors. Matas Mendeles can already see the position swap happening, so Simon Speth will be busy with Rahmanian trying to take that spot. Matas Mendeles goes deep into the Acqua Minerale corner on the exit, and well, he took a lot of curb. Assetto Corsa has its own system to calculate the off-track system, so we don't have to go through the replays and watch different camera angles if a driver was within the track limits or not. If Matas Mendeles was off the racetrack and gained advantage, he will receive a warning, and after 3 excursions of the racetrack like the one he had, he will receive a drive-through penalty. So Matas Mendeles has to be cautious, but of course he's currently 100% into this race, trying to focus on his second position that he's currently at. 2.3 seconds behind Talianos, so Talianos has 10 kilograms of ballast on his car. Matas Mendeles drives around the track with 35 kilograms, as Simon Speth has 25 kilograms added weight in total. These are the 3 heaviest cars on the grid. All the other drivers enjoy the cars as light as they come out of the factory. Just with that added fuel, Simon Speth goes wide again, and that's not the quickest way around the racetrack, but maybe the drivers are struggling to find the grip and work on the temperature of the tires. But as soon as you start to slide those tires, they will not only be on perfect temperature, they will overheat, and that's not gonna be good for the next corners. The drivers who tend to overheat the tires, they don't have a lot of turn-in from the front wheels. They have to slow down a little bit more, so Simon Speth should calm down a little bit. You can see that you can shave off quite a chunk of track on the exit of Acqua Minerale corner. Simon Speth used all the width and a little bit more possible, but currently he's not on par with the pace of Rahmanian. Matas Mendelis 1.3 seconds advantage against Rahmanian and Simon Speth, so it's looking pretty good for Matas at this moment. But don't forget that Talianos is also in that battle for P2 in the overall standings. Talianos is currently 4th, but only 1 point behind Matas Mendelis. Matas participated only in four races in this championship, so whatever amount of points Matas Mendelis will collect in this race will go towards his overall results, as Talianos and Speth, they have participated in all the previous races. So we should do some mathematical calculations to try and understand what position belongs to which driver, but as we don't have Gustas Grimbergas currently with us, he will be joining us a little bit later in the afternoon, so maybe he will still make it on time to try and help us with the math. As we ride on board with Simon Speth, he's 0.7 seconds behind Rahmanian, trying to calm down, trying to get back those tires in normal working range as he is chasing down Rahmanian. The qualifying lap time was 4/10 slower by Rahmanian than it was by Simon Speth, so Simon has definitely the strength and the speed to finish at least 3rd in this first opening race of the final round in the Premium Sprint Challenge on the World Sim Series platform. And as usual, we have the qualifying session happening in the first race, because whoever finishes 5th will start the second race from pole position. Currently, Grajis is safely 5th, 4.2 seconds behind Speth, 6 seconds ahead of Essa, just trying to cruise down those corners, keep those tires alive, and he will try to finish off this race in the position that he's currently at to make himself a little bit more interesting in the final sprint challenge race of this season. So year comes to an end. The premium events are also finishing, but let's wait for the next year, as the format of the premium challenges will remain the same. Starting already in January, we will see new series taking place, and basically everything will stay as it is in this championship. We will have 2 sprint race, and afterwards we will have 1 endurance race, 45-minute race. We will only see a change in the cars as Rahmanian runs a little bit wide on the exit, giving a nice chance for Simon Speth to take that 3rd spot. It didn't happen. Simon Speth was a little bit too far behind to get used of the mistake of Rahmanian, so Rahmanian manages to stay ahead of Simon Speth, safe in P3. So back to what I was speaking about earlier. So we will have a new series, 2 new championships with same format that we have right now, but it's gonna be the MX-5 Cup, and the Endurance Championship will have Porsche Cayman Club Sport GT4s versus the same MX-5. So if you want to stay busy during the winter time, wait no more, join the World Sim Series platform on the web, register for the races, and you can participate in the upcoming championships that will start somewhere in January, so not too far from today. Looks like Talianos is safely in the lead, though Matas Mendelis was slightly faster on the previous lap. He was slightly slower on this lap, and the fastest car on the track on the previous lap was the one that belongs to Simon Speth. And he tries to find a way through on this Imola racetrack into P3. Simon Speth qualified second. He was running second for the first couple of laps until he missed his braking point, went on the gravel in the Variante Tamburello corner, and lost 2 places to his one of the main rivals and to Rahmanian. By the way, Rahmanian is currently 6th in the overall standings with 56 points in total as he goes off the track again. Simon Speth finds himself right on the tail of that bluish car with a unicorn on the side doors, and still manages to stay in front. Has to go defensive, well, at least for a brief moment of time. Aqua Minerale is not the best place for an overtake to take place. Simon Speth still finds himself really racy here. Yeah, he has the edge, but it's not too big, and that doesn't allow him for an easy overtake. And he struggles all around the racetrack for the past 10 minutes. As Matas Mendelis cruising away from both of these drivers, Rahmanian going into mistakes. Simon Speth, he is not able to find safe places where he could take that third spot away from his rival. Still controlling everything nicely, staying behind and waiting for his chance to come. Penultimate lap of the first sprint race has started, so 38 corners in total for Simon Speth to make it happen, to take that third spot. And even if he finishes third, I'm not sure if he'll be happy with himself, because he qualified second and had all the chances to finish right in that place where he started. But it's not the easiest task. With these BMWs, the cars start on cold tires, and you can only see how the drivers want to be in front of their rivals, pushing the cars to the very limits, and it was a little bit too much at that one corner where Simon Speth went off. Needs to deal with the consequences now and wants to have the biggest damage limitation possible for him. He's right on the tail of Rahmanian, still not able to go through. Remains calm, relaxed, and just goes with the rhythm, with the track. Waits for another mistake by Rahmanian, so he tries to stick as close as possible to that BMW in front of him. Penultimate lap through Variante Alta. A couple of corners to go and the drivers will start the final lap. Talianos with a look at his first win in this championship, if my memory doesn't play any games with me. I don't remember Talianos taking checkered flag in this championship. If he did, so that would still be a very great achievement. 5.3 seconds ahead of Matas Mendelis, who was consistently fast throughout this championship. Matas Mendelis missed 1 round in total, so he didn't start at all. So any points that Matas Mendelis will collect this afternoon will go towards his overall Standing results as Simon Speth tries to have a go on Rahmanian. Rahmanian goes defensive. I'm not sure if you should defend the inside line as we approach Variante Villeneuve, and inside line a little bit of a contact. Rahmanian goes off the racetrack. The racing stewards will definitely have a look at this incident. It looked like a racing incident. Well, both of the cars were side by side and they just ran out of track. The sixth corner, it's a little bit too tight for two cars to fit in through. And both of the cars were a little bit too fast, to my point of view. Just that Rahmanian was on the outside and he was the driver who went circling off the racetrack. So Simon Speth, he owns the third place currently, but well, he knows that there is live race control looking at all the accidents that take place, and there's not a lot of accidents this afternoon, so it shouldn't take too long for the stewards to make a decision if there's anyone to blame. So Simon Speth, even though he is looking at the third place finish in the first sprint race, he might receive a penalty as Stalianos takes the checkered flag and wins the opening race of the final round. Matas Mendelis finishes second. Simon Speth brings the BMW home in P3 as Rahmanian manages to survive and finishes fourth. Grajis crosses the line fifth, which is the pole position for the second race, as the most beautiful car on the grid is looking for a sixth place finish. That's Essa, 15 seconds ahead of Azikiev and 15 more seconds ahead of Luengo. Abdelhadi is back on the grid. He went on the racetrack to take that checkered flag, but he didn't start this one off from P2, so it's gonna be another driver in the final race who might mix up with the leaders. He has the pace, he was fast in the qualifying session. The car doesn't look in one piece. Maybe he was a little bit too frustrated that he couldn't start, but yeah, he faced some issues in the first race, still took the checker flag, and he will be on the grid for the second run. So short break between the two races, and we prepare ourselves for the final race of the championship, as Stalianos took the checkered flag with Matas Mendelis and Simon Speth finishing behind him. Rahmanian fourth, Grajis fifth, and taking the pole position for the second race, Essa, Azikiev, Luengo and Abdelhadi. So we are about ready to start the final race of the championship. Stalianos will be on the fifth spot on the grid, as Grajis will lead the pack, and hopefully it's gonna be a little bit more action-packed race as we will have those top 5 drivers starting the race in the reverse order. Remember, Matas Mendelis didn't have enough pace in the qualifying session to take that pole position. His fastest race lap time was 6/10 slower than the fastest lap time of Talianos. Simon Speth has the pace, well, at least he had a similar pace as Matas Mendelis. And the biggest question is Abdelhadi. He was second in the qualifying session. He will start 9th, but not too far away from Talianos, Mendelis and Speth. So Abdelhadi will be looking at a decent race start this time. We can see his car lined up on the grid right in front of those 2 safety and medical cars. So maybe let's join Abdelhadi for the start of this race. It's gonna take place in roughly 30 seconds time. And as we observe the starting procedure, by the way, Simon Speth did not receive any penalty for that incident, so it was a racing incident between the drivers. As the light goes out and we are up and running with Abdelhadi, he starts 9th, and he did have a really nice launch from the starting position, already side by side with Luengo, as Grajis goes defensive against Rahmanian, but it looks like there's not much he can do. Rahmanian just had a better run off the racing line. Simon Speth already 3rd in the battle with Grajis, and there's a contact and both of the cars goes off the racetrack, so Simon Speth is not having the best race of his life on the final event. Grajis and Speth off the racetrack, Rahmanian in the lead. Talianos goes up to 3rd as Matas Mendelis climbs up to P2. Abdelhadi is still 6th. Grajis and Speth, both cars on the back of the pack. This is not the best news for Simon Speth, as he was 2nd throughout the championship in the leaderboard. I think he is about to lose out to Matas Mendelis as Talianos finds himself in the battle with his main rival. Talianos was 4th in the championship standings. And he has to deal with Mendelis. Good news for Rahmanian, as his main rivals are in a battle. Abdelhadi goes up to 4th. Speth still 9th. And both of the cars are way off of the fighting pack. 7 seconds behind Luengo, as Matas Mendelis, well, it's gonna be a very hard and tough life for Matas. He is being chased down by the fastest car this weekend, well, this afternoon. Talianos took pole position and won the first race, and Talianos definitely looking for a 2nd race win. Currently doable. He needs to deal with Matas Mendelis, who goes a little bit too deep into Rivasa corner and opens up the door for Talianos. And that's about it. So pretty nice and easy position gains this evening, as Matas Mendelis received a nice gift, a present from Simon Speth in the first race. Now he's given it back to Talianos, though still goes a little bit racy. Talianos has to go defensive, but takes the inside line, and I think he should easily stay in front of Matas Mendelis. Now that's gonna be the job for both of the drivers to try and chase down Rahmanian. Matas Mendelis, I think he will try to stick as close as possible to the back end of the BMW driven by Talianos, as both of the drivers will try their best to chase down Rahmanian. Now what about Abdelhadi? He's only 0.9 of a second behind Mendelis. Oh, that's gonna be a really nice battle between at least 4 drivers. Well, not at least 4 drivers. It should be a very nice battle between 4 drivers if Talianos and Mendelis will have the pace to chase their rival down. And Abdelhadi, he had pace in the qualifying session. He's currently 1 second behind Talianos and Mendelis, the 2 cars that currently seem to be working together. I'm pretty sure Matas Mendelis is a pretty wise guy, and he knows that, well, he should wait it out a little bit and not start making any moves against Italianos. Was faster throughout the evening, and by working together they should chase down Rahmanian, hopefully make no mistakes, but the gap keeps around 2.5 seconds between P1 and P2, so good job by all the drivers. Looked like Italianos has the best pace in the qualifying session, but look at how it looks during the race. All the cars are on a very similar pace. Now, interestingly, what Abdelhadi is up in his mind, he's currently 4th, definitely has a little bit better pace than Matas Mendelis. Italiano seems to be catching up with Rahmanian. Fastest lap goes to Abdelhadi, 1:57.6. The slowest car of the 4 drivers is Matas Mendelis, 1:58.3. Well, he didn't have the best exit from the last corner on the previous lap. Still, he lost somewhere on the back part, well, the closing stages of the lap, because at the very beginning he was really close to Italianos, lost out while trying to chase down Italianos on his path. That's gonna be a very hard life for Matas Mendelis. Simon Speth back into P6. He finds himself right behind Ezikeev. That shouldn't be too hard for Simon Speth if he doesn't have big damage to take that 5th spot away from Ezikeev, and that's already a little bit better job, better finishing result looking up for Simon Speth. Still a little bit less than 10 minutes on the clock as Simon Speth well, he finds himself 10 seconds behind Abdelhadi, Mendelis and Italianos. These 3 cars are really close to each other. They are not gaining too fast on Italianos. Still, looks like Italianos has a slight pace advantage. Mendelis tries to keep up with Italianos, and looks like this lap is gonna be the fastest by Italianos. Matas Mendelis again really wide on the exit. Tries not to spare any centimeter of the on the racetrack to just have those big, good exits. Yep, and the fastest lap goes to Italianos. The slowest car of the 4 leading group cars is Abdelhadi, with a lap time of 1:57.5, but that's only 0.3 slower than Matas Mendelis and Rahmanian, and half a second slower than Italianos. Still some nice tight gaps between the drivers, meaning that any mistake that any of the drivers would or could do might cost them a really precious position on the racetrack. But it's nice to have 4 cars that are getting closer within each other on every corner of the racetrack, and hopefully promising us some nice battle moments towards the end of this race, which approaches pretty fast, as is Italiano approaching quite fast on this particular lap on Rahmanian. Luengo back into the pit lane, being shown as the race leader, but it looks like it's only because Luengo teleported or got towed back to the pit lane and he's out of the race, so didn't go as planned for the driver from Spain. His race and his championship is basically completed. Mendelis, Italiano, Rahmanian and Abdelhadi separated by 3.9 seconds from P1 to P4. You cannot tell by the looks, or simply looking at the track, looking at the drivers, how hard the drivers are trying to remain or gain places at this moment. Look at the pace of Italianos, 1:56.5. So he finally found a very good rhythm in the second race, and he tries to chase down Rahmanian. Still enough time on the clock, so that's definitely doable. Matas Mendelis tries to keep up with Talianos because he knows he needs to stay as close as possible. Talianos will, or if Talianos will get too close to Rahmanian, then a fight will start out between the drivers. That's the chance of Mendelis and of course Abdelhadi to get into that mix. Abdelhadi, well, looks like he shaved off a little bit too much of rubber on the opening laps because he's losing pace. Now he's the slowest car, on the second lap in a row. So he needs to concentrate and try to keep up with Mendelis and Talianos and Rahmanian, because the battle for the lead was about to start as Talianos makes a very big mistake into Aqua Minerali, 11th corner on the racetrack. Wow, how many mistakes can the drivers do this afternoon as Matas Mendelis goes side by side with Talianos into Variante Alta. Matas Mendelis comes in front of Talianos. Another gift or giveaway to Matas Mendelis. Well, Matas Mendelis lost out to Talianos in a very similar fashion. The battle is still not over. Talianos around the outside, brakes as late as possible, but both corners are left-handers and in favor of Matas Mendelis. Of course, in the biggest favor of Rahmanian, who vanishes into the distance with 5 minutes on the clock. That means we still have 3 laps to complete, as the biggest battle opens up for P2. Talianos is forced to choose the outside line, approaching Variante Tamburello. Matas Mendelis chooses the line very wisely and manages to stay in front as the cameraman loses both cars battling on the racetrack. Abdelhadi, he's enjoying the views so much and he's full of hope now, seeing both of the cars running side by side through the track, and Talianos, well, finally took the better line. I'm not sure why the drivers keep defending the inside. Well, actually they defend the inside line for the wrong corner, going through corners 5 and 6. Well, Matas Mendelis tried to defend the inside line of corner 5, but it's only a very fast left-hander followed by a slower right-hander. So both of the drivers tried to act in a very similar fashion. I'm talking about Rahmanian in first race versus Speth, and Matas Mendelis basically chose the same strategy. Both of the drivers lost the position. So good driving by Talianos. Mendelis tried his best to stay in front of Talianos, but Talianos, he's definitely on a high note, on a very good pace this evening. Won the first race. I don't see him chasing down Rahmanian now with only 2.5 laps to go. Still has the fastest lap time of the race and should finish second unless goes to do another mistake. Simon Speth still sitting 5th, 8.2 seconds behind Abdelhadi, so he shaved off 1.8 seconds from the drivers ahead. There is still no time for Simon Speth to chase down and finish in a higher position, but that's the way the racing is, and well, sometimes you can win, but mostly you lose in the first corner, and I don't think there was any fault by either of the drivers. Let's take a look at what the stewards have to say. Well, actually, 5 seconds and 1 safety rating point goes into the account of Gragis for that first corner incident. And we had another contact between Luengo and Azikev, another 5 seconds and 1 safety rating point for Luengo, who is already out of this race. So no issues, just an accident, and the driver is out of this race on the final race of the championship. Matas Mendelis losing out to Talianos, and basically this is a race to finish it out, as we have 1.5 laps on the clocks. Nice run by Rahmanian. He was definitely lucky that the driver behind him made a mistake. Look at the pace advantage that Talianos has now, 3.7 seconds. He was slower on the previous lap also, but remember, he was running side by side with Matas Mendelis through half of that lap. That's why he was slower, but he will be definitely faster on this lap, that the drivers will cross the line and start the final lap of the championship. And there's going to be no Premium Series this year, but another Premium Series championship is planned for the month of January. Very similar concept, just different race cars. Matas Mendelis just managed to put in his personal fastest lap time, as Talianos was 0.6 per lap faster, but that's already game over unless Rahmanian makes some sort of a mistake, which definitely is unlikable. Only half lap to go, and Talianos goes a little bit wide on the exit of turn 6, but that's not too wide and no big problems. He's just trying to be as fast as possible, though most likely there is no chance for Talianos to finish the second race in P1. Good news for Talianos, he will still have the most amount of points this evening, so he will be the winner of the final round with the most collected points. And for the final results and the championship standings, we will have to get back to the World Sim Series platform to check up with the calculations and how the drivers did in this championship. Jan Nimtz is already the champion, and there's the battle between Speth, Mendelis and Talianos for P2, 3 and 4 in the overall standings. Currently Simon Speth is second in the championship, but I'm not pretty sure if that's going to remain the same, because Matas Mendelis will bring home a bigger amount of points in the final race, so that might change. Talianos, he was 1 point behind Matas Mendelis, but the points were for 5 rounds in total. Anyways, we will figure this out after the championship ends, and Rahmanian takes the checkered flag and wins the second race, the final race of the sprint challenge. Talianos finishes second, Mendelis third, and Abdelhadi should cross the line fourth, as Simon Speth should take P5 when crossing the checkered flag. A little bit of a mix-up by the timing tower, so let's try and check it out on the World Sim Series platform with the overall standings. Yep, so you can clearly see Grajis receiving a 5-second penalty by the steward, so he is pushed down to P8, as Rahmanian is confirmed as the second race winner. Talianos second with the fastest lap time of 1 minute 56.5, Mendelis third, Abdelhari fourth, Speth fifth, Azikiev sixth, Essa seventh, Grajis eighth, and Luengo ninth. I'm pretty sure the results will remain as they are, because we didn't have a lot of incidents, and all the incidents that we have been already resolved. So stay behind the screens. We take a short break as we will swap out with the championships, and we will be back soon with the Premium Endurance Challenge and the final race of the championship.
win, you should win. welcome to Imola. Welcome back to Imola. I'm now joining Lorinas for the second part of tonight's racing action from this wonderful circuit, and we've got the Premium Endurance Challenge coming up. We've still got a title decider on our hands between Matas Mendeles and Leo Bryan. They do have a 20-point difference, so the only way for Leo Bryan to win this one is to win the race and Matas Mendeles to DNF. That's the only possible way for Leo Bryan to win this one here tonight, but we'll see how the race pans out.
Yep, and to start the race, we still have to finish off with this qualifying session. Grudin is dominating once again. He did pretty well 1 week ago, was really fast. He's currently the fastest car on the track, also 4 tenths ahead of Matas Mendeles and 1 full second ahead of Leo Bryan. Still a little bit of time on the clock. All 3 GT3 class leaders are still on softs, meaning that they are pushing to the maximum to try and better up the positions on the grid of the upcoming final race. You can clearly see how much of that curb the drivers can take on the exit of the Acqua Minerale corner. Assetto Corsa has different track limits. The real track, let's call it like that. I think Rodin is... Did he back off? Maybe it just looked like that. I think we had some...
He's still on his out lap.
Okay, yeah, so... And small connection issues, at least by the looks of it, through the Variante Alta corner for Dominikas Grudin. So hopefully that's not going to be the case during the race, because you never want to race against a driver who is having connection issues.
And Mendeles on your screens. Again, he is gunning for that championship. And he just needs a clean evening here tonight.
The BMW class has also crowned its champion. Same name, Jan Nemts, who won the Sprint Challenge, also won the BMW Endurance class. And he's also absent, so free evening for the driver from Germany, leaving the most amount of points for his rivals, and Abdelhadi is currently dominating the qualifying session. He did also really nice in the sprint races. He qualified second behind Italianos. Didn't have the chance to start off in the first race. Finished fourth in the second one after starting ninth. Currently shows his pace is there again, and he wants to start the endurance race in front of Simon Speth, who seems to be in the battle for the second spot with Terciali, if that's even possible. But Terciali is currently 5th in the BMW class. So nowhere near Simon Speth. Matas Mendeles back into the pit lane, by the way, so his qualifying session is over. He went slightly faster, but not fast enough. As Abdelhadi continues his lap, and Rahmanian and Terciali, well, it leaves only Abdelhadi and Terciali on the racetrack from the BMW class to battle it out. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Abdelhadi took the pole position for the race, as completed his lap and qualifies 5th in the GT3 class, as Abdelhadi almost on the completion of his final lap. But I'm pretty sure he can feel the joy for starting from the highest position on the grid in the BMW class in the final round of the Endurance Championship. He's about to cross the line, maybe has something more in the pocket regarding the lap time. And nope, he didn't go faster, but Grudinus went slightly faster with his final attempt in the GT3 class, 143.5, so he's upping the game, and well, he wants to win off this one. As usual, the endurance type of race has some strategic part in it, and we've already seen that sometimes the drivers can be the fastest on the grid, but they choose the wrong strategy, as Tarchali is not ending his lap time. So he's back in the pit lane and the qualifying session is completed.
Yep, so qualifying over, and Dominykas Graudinis with a half a second lead in the GT Freeze, and then Mendelis with a half a second lead over his championship rival in Lee O'Brien. So big gaps in the front three in GT3. Much smaller gaps in the M235i's. Abdelhadi took pole by just 1/10 of a second ahead of Speff. Frank another 2/10 behind. Rachmanian about half a tenth behind. And then Tarchali about half a second behind Rachmanian. So smaller gaps in the M235i's. We'll have to keep an eye out on what is going on in that category. But the GT3s, well, they're a little bit more spread out. And again, Mendelis only needs to finish here to take that title. But 45 kilos on his car, Graudinis with only 10. I'm sure that helped a little bit in the qualifying performance, but still, huge gap.
Yep. Still, it's gonna be the final race that's gonna decide the final race positions for the drivers, and we have to start this one off to finish it first. A couple of strategic options. We see Graudinis starting on the softs, while all the other GT3s will start on the mediums, so you can expect from escape from the whole field by Dominykas Graudinis at the very beginning.
And we're off for the final time this season. Graudinis gets a horrible start. He loses, well, almost all of the positions in GT3. Essa, the only one behind. Now Mendelis leads them on the way down to turn one. Leo Bryan under pressure from Przybylka behind, and Leo Bryan stays in, well, goes up to second. Mendelis takes the lead of the race. Przybylka in third. Graudinis up into fourth. Abdelhadi holds on to the lead in the M235i's ahead of Spech, Rachmanian, Frank, and Tarchali. So Frank and Rachmanian swapping positions as the lights went out. It is very much a sunsetty time here at Imola, and we'll be getting close to nighttime as the race goes on. In the Ferrari 488 GT3s and the BMW M235i's. Dominykas Graudinis, by the way, he started on the soft tire, so this is the worst possible outcome for him. Started on the soft, a little bit wide. Not sure if that pings the track limits, but a little bit wide. Still not doing too badly is Graudinis keeping up with this lead pack, and I think he's going to make a move on Przybylka now. He's got the softer tires. He can get them up to temperature quicker. And Dominykas Graudinis back up into third. 2 more positions to go until he's back to where he started. But his plan of starting on the softs, well, it really hasn't worked.
Yep, it didn't. Well, he should have started and ran away from the chasing pack, because, well, I'm pretty sure he's on a lighter car also, because, well, he will not finish off this race on one set of tires, so that basically means that drivers have to refuel during the pit stop and they run the race with a lighter car at the start. So it's a shame we didn't see what happened with Dominykas Graudinis exactly, because, well, he was on the inside of the track where the cameraman didn't catch up exactly with what happened. Well, either he just missed the start or had a slightly too big wheel spin. But there comes his pace at this moment. Look at the pace difference that he has, and that's well, that's how it should be with a strategy like that. His plan is to run off into the distance because he will take a lot of time in the in the pit lane during his pit stop. He will need to change the tires, he will need to refuel the car, as most likely the two cars in front, they are on that splash and dash strategy most likely, because they started on the mediums. Well, that doesn't, it's not for certain, we never know which strategy the drivers choose at the beginning of this race, but it definitely is really interesting to see the strategy differences between the drivers. And running on softs means that, well, you have the better grip as long as you keep the tires in the range of the perfect temperature, in the perfect temperature range. But if you start to slide too much or go into too big battles, you can easily overheat the tires and lose quite a lot of time in the coming corners. There goes Dominykas Graudinis. It's definitely a very easy overtake. He's definitely with a lighter car, not only with the softer tires. So he should overtake Matas Mendelis maybe by the end of this lap. He has the pace. He's the fastest car on the track, 6/10 faster than Matas Mendelis. But he will have to make that longer pit stop and think about the longevity of the tires, the soft ones. If you scrub those too much, you're in trouble. So Dominykas Graudinis needs not only to make those overtakes, but he needs to think about his tires. 200% of tire wear, meaning that the tires wear out 2 times faster than they normally would. And you have to be gentle.
Yep, so still having to work those tires in. Maybe... well, it depends on the surface, I guess. Depends on the temperatures, as Graudinis actually has a shot now around the outside into the chicane. Doesn't happen, but I think that move is coming. It's almost inevitable at this point. So getting closer, getting closer.
Brian was close, but he lost traction on the exit of the Variante Alta corner and lost out to the 2 drivers in front. But if he could keep up a little bit closer with both of the cars, he might get his chance also to try and battle out Matas Mendelis. Look how much struggle does Leo Bryan have on the exit of the final corner as Matas Mendelis starts to go defensive. Already taking that inside line. That's how racy Matas Mendelis is. He knows that if he'll have the chance to keep Dominykas Graudinis behind him for as long as possible, he will have his better chances in the coming races. But both of them come together and it was a little bit too tight. I don't know if Matas Mendelis was a little bit too aggressive or too opportunistic to fight a car on a different strategy. I don't think that's a big incident. I don't think that there will be penalties applied for this small contact. To my point of view, both of the cars just didn't fit through the corner, but none of them did something wrong. Maybe Matas Mendelis was a little bit too hot-headed trying to defend a car with soft tires. Well, he did everything right, running down the straight, defending that corner, but as soon as they went side by side, I think he could have backed out of it and concentrate on the further laps and the different strategy. Now he lost out to his main rival, which is not a big deal. He needs to get a DNF in this race to not take that crown. He can afford to finish behind Leo Bryan and still be the champion, but definitely would like to finish in front of your main rivals on the final race while taking that champion crown.
Yep. So I just had a look back at the incident. I think it's going to be chalked up to a racing incident. I don't really see much fault in either side there. And on your screens is Rachmanian, 0.5 behind Speff. So not Franke, who was actually closer in qualifying, is the one on the attack. It is Rachmanian. And, well, Speff anyway is safe in where he is in the championship, as he's he can only be second here. So this is very much just a race for fun. But still doing well is Spef.
Yep, so it's not only the final race of the championship, it's basically the final race of the year 2024, well, at least from the premium events on the World Sim Series platform. So I'm pretty sure every driver came here to do as good as possible, to finish off with the last year and have something good to start off on the new one. As mentioned before, there will be new premium championship on the World Sim Series platform in 2025, starting somewhere in January, and it's gonna have the same concept of races, 2 sprint series, well, a sprint championship with 2 sprint races with an MX-5 Cup car, and then again this endurance type of race with MX-5s and Porsche Cayman Club Sport GT4s. So yeah, so everyone participating here, I'm pretty sure they are looking forward for the new season and just trying to stay hot, trying to stay fit, and trying to do their best, as Matas Mendelis comes much closer to Lee O'Brien on this lap. Only half a second separates these two Ferrari GT3 cars on open setups, by the way. So you never know which driver has the more preferable setup for him. And as usual, the pace changes throughout the course of the different stints. I'm assuming that Graudinis is on a full stop strategy where he will...
No, he should be.
Yep, of course.
With the soft tire, I don't think you can make it to the end.
And, well, my main point is, and I think that both of these Ferraris, so Brian and Mendelis, they will have only the splash and dash, so they have to think about the longevity, and about the life of the medium tire. So they also have to not scrub it too much, not overheat, not to abuse the tire, to have it doable, in a good shape to finish off this race, as they might face the challenge to conquer or to battle with Graudinis.
I don't think it is actually going to be that bad for those medium runners, even if they push a little bit harder. Seeing how long it took for them to get those tires up to working temperature, it kind of signals to us that it maybe is a circuit that doesn't use the tires up that much. So clearly, with the drivers struggling to get up to temperature in the tires, I think that is a pretty good sign that the mediums will push on, and I think they'll recover pace, and they might even be on a negative tire delta, as in with the fuel going down, they'll actually get much quicker and not be limited by tire wear. And Dominikas Grudin is still running away with it at the front, but this time he actually wasn't quicker than the guys behind.
Yep, so those softs, they are fast, but it's definitely a challenge for the driver to stay fast on the tire. I mean, you cannot afford any mistake. If you start going deeper into the corners, you abuse the tires and you will lose all the benefits of it. And actually, you might become slower than the drivers on the mediums. So there might be situations where Dominikas makes a couple of small mistakes, and then he would have to back off the pace slightly just to cool off the tires, as it looks like he continues to gain advantage again, though he just lost 3 or 4 tenths only through the Variante Alta chicane. So he started to struggle definitely after 12 minutes of racing. And well, on some parts of the track it seems that both of Mendelis and O'Brien keep chasing down and minimizing the gap between themselves and Graudinis. And looking at the situation, it doesn't seem so nice for Dominikas Graudinis, as it seemed at the start of the race, and I think we had a very similar race in this championship already with quite a similar strategy between the drivers, where Graudinis had a strategy on softs, and
maybe he just over pushed it in the beginning when he had to recover those positions. Maybe he just went a little bit too hard.
Wasn't it Hockenheimring where the drivers were on a very similar strategy, where Graudinis was on that faster strategy, but he still lost out to Mendelis and O'Brien? We definitely had a very similar race in this championship with the same drivers and same strategy. Oh, and Matas Mendelis wants that P2, which virtually is actually P1. By the looks of it, Dominykas Graudinis doesn't have the needed pace, the needed advantage. It's gonna be 20 seconds longer pit stop, or maybe even 25 seconds longer pit stop with the tire change and refueling, and it's a long pit stop long pit lane on the Imola racetrack.
Yep. So, I mean, he's extended the gap a little bit again, but yeah, I think, I mean, it looks kind of strange to not see him gain that much time. And here comes Mendelis on Lee O'Brien down into turn 1. Can Mendelis make it around the outside this time? Nope. Can't do it again, and Lee O'Brien not leaving him any space on the outside there. Mendelis stays behind. Is O'Brien waiting? I think he might be. At least moved out. Still seeing these two in battle. I think Lee O'Brien just lifted off a little bit to close that gap. And, well, they're back. They're back to running together. But losing time to Graudinis, and that's important for Graudinis. If he can continue that run, and he hopes that these two behind will get into an even bigger battle, it might actually go back towards him when just, let's say, half a lap ago, it looked pretty bad.
Yep, so maybe he cooled off those tires. Maybe he had to cool them off to have the grip back. Because the thing with the soft tires is you can overheat them very easily, and well, then you are forced to cool them down and be much more slower through the corners, just more gentle with the inputs. And as soon as you bring the temperature down to the optimals, I think you should still have that pace advantage. But well, it's 29 minutes on the clock, so meaning in roughly 2 laps we will be hitting the mid-race. Well, maybe in 4 laps, to be more exact. It's 3 laps, the mid stage of the race. And
yeah,
only 7 seconds advantage. It doesn't seem as being enough. Oh, Matas Mendelis, a Verstappen-style move into Tossa corner, and it worked out.
It really worked out. I think Lee O'Brien was maybe really not expecting it, because it actually came from quite a far back, and he got really up down the inside, actually got in front, and then could brake on the apex. Oh, he went very wide now, opens the door on the inside, but Lee O'Brien doesn't find any way through. Luckily for Mendelis, doesn't find any way through as they negotiate the M235i traffic now. I think they're going to be stuck into the chicane. This is good news for O'Brien, good news for Graudinis as well. But actually, no.
Oh, O'Brien was a little bit too careful by the looks of it, or he didn't overshoot the corner.
No, he didn't overshoot it, so he just lost a lot of time.
So he was a little bit too careful on the brakes, and well, he lost out to Mendelis half a second. Now he's 7/10 off, and the next two BMWs, they should be overtaken on the straight. Well, maybe Abdelhadi will be greeted into the Variante Tamburello, but no, it looks like Matas Mendelis will make it on time, and Leo Bryan, will he make it? Oh,
no chance.
That's going to be close, but he has to back off, and Matas Mendelis will gain even more lead against Leo Bryan. Yep, so lost a little bit too much.
Mendelis was looking quicker anyway, so I think it's not really a big surprise to see that move being made. And now it's obviously all about Mendelis, well, trying to catch up to Grodinis up in front, who is getting closer to his pit stop. That 7.7 second advantage, it's not going to be enough to take the lead. I think he needs about 18 seconds to keep the lead. At least 15, that's for sure. Because they all need to pit anyway, but Grodinis' pit stop will take much, much longer. It will be interesting to see, that is for sure.
Yep, so basically now it's the race between Grodinis and Mendelis, and in my point of view, at this moment, Mendelis' chances look to be bigger, but well, it might not stay the same. Grodinis will receive a new pack of tires, and both of these Ferraris, they should stay on the same tire for the whole course of the race. So theoretically, the pace difference towards the end of the race should be much bigger than it is now. But we still have to wait and see how long that pit stop is gonna take for Dominykas Grodinis and the other drivers. Was Abdelhadi, the leader of the BMWs, is into the pit lane, and he's on hards. So what kind of a stop is that? Yep, it's only a splash and dash. He was leading.
Just decided to do it early.
Yep.
I mean, that's an option. That's not a bad option either.
Well, maybe he wasn't feeling too comfortable in leading that race. Maybe he was feeling too much pressure and decided to make an early pit stop, calm down a little bit, and do his best job while not concentrating on the gap between himself and Simon Speth. Because we also have 3 cars on hards and 2 cars on mediums in the BMW class. Franke, by the way, with already 1 pit stop completed. Przybylka from the GT3 class, he was running 4th. He also just made a pit stop, and I'm pretty sure we are about to see a pit stop from the GT3 class leader. That shouldn't happen by the end of this lap. He should still stay out at least for 1 more lap. Maybe even 2 or even 3 to have those softs that you could abuse a little bit more for the final stint of the race. And though the gap is going down, it's 6.7 seconds already between Mendelis and Grodinis. It was a little bit more than 7 seconds. Let's wait and see. Yep, look, Matas Mendelis 144.8 his personal best lap, and 145.6 for Dominykas Grodinis. So he started to roll back into problems and mistakes like these. Yeah, that's not gonna help Dominykas Grodinis. I think he will go into the pit lane, and that's gonna hurt his space.
That one was really bad for him, because he lost about 2 seconds there, at least 1.5. So now for him to fight back and come back on this one, it's gonna be a big struggle. You know, even with that soft tire, he's gonna refuel, most likely, I'm guessing. So he's gonna come back on a new set of softs, maybe even thinking about the medium, but probably he's gonna come back on a new set of softs. And he'll have to find the pace to actually be quicker than Mendelis, and be quicker than him by a lot, because he'll be behind, and he'll be behind by about at least 10 seconds.
Yeah, at least 10, I'd say he'll be behind Mendelis by 20 seconds.
Well, I think at tire changes, I think it's between 15 and 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean the difference between the moment that both cars make that pit stop, because well, when he returns to the racetrack, yep, going into the pit lane, clever decision. He will still wait for that splash and dash by Matas Mendelis, so that difference gonna sort out. But it should be roughly, well, at least 20 seconds difference with that long stop and the short stop. That was my main point.
Yep. So we'll see where he actually rejoins once everybody pits.
Rahmanian actually made a pit stop and he's now down in 10th, so something went... Seems that not everything went well for Rahmanian in the pit lane.
It looks fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, wait.
He was third before the pit stops. Now Abdelhadi was first. Maybe that's no. Well, Franke had made a pit stop also, and Rahmanian finds himself behind Franke now.
Yep, but right behind. So I think he lost about 1.5 seconds, something like that. So it's not huge. That's a normal, let's say, normal loss that you can have in a pit stop. Maybe just unlucky with traffic somewhere. Once he came back out on track, not too many cars, so you're not going to be too stuck in traffic. But if you do get any, it's well, it's going to make a big difference.
Look at the gap between O'Brien and Grodinis, 41 seconds almost. It's 44 seconds between Mendelis and Grodinis after that pit stop. It's a shame we don't have the numbers of how long the pit stops were and how much time the drivers spent just driving through the pit lane, so it's really hard to compare and hard to speculate how much pace difference does Grodinis need, but currently he's basically on same pace as O'Brien and Mendelis. He's on colder tires, but the softs, well, they warm up pretty fast.
Yeah, but I think he needs to avoid making the mistake that he did, well, that we think he did in the first run, where he overheated them too early.
Yeah, so he's gentle on those tires on the opening lap. He should open up the pace, as the pace of both Mendelis and O'Brien will go down, and it's not gonna recover because they will not change the tires. At least that's what we think, and that's what it looks like with 19 minutes. I don't see why the drivers should change the strategy at this stage. Mendelis struggling a little bit on the previous lap and also on this one because Leo O'Brien is well, gaining a little bit on Mendelis. It's now down to 2.8 seconds, the gap. So maybe Mendelis was a little bit too hard on those tires. Runs wide on the exit of the Variante Alta chicane. And, well, things suddenly seem to become pretty interesting, as it was 2 weeks ago, actually. We thought Matas Mendelis had the win and had the championship there. But it didn't end so well, with some small battles and mistakes, and Matas Mendelis finished second that time, behind O'Brien. That's why we still have that some sort of a battle for the championship in this one, though it's only theoretical, not a real battle, but still. Well, we are looking at this race as a battle between the drivers, not thinking about the championship, just trying to do their jobs as best as possible. Look at Abdelhadi after the pit stop of Simon Speth. Abdelhadi finds himself behind his rival, and this is actually the battle for the lead in the BMW M235i class. Where did Abdelhadi lose the time? He was in front of Speth.
I think he was in front of Speth. I think it was just the traffic that the earlier stoppers came out into. That was probably an issue. I mean, that's the only explanation I have here.
Yep, so both of the drivers, Abdelhadi and Rahmanian, who stopped earlier, they lost out. Well, they stopped on similar time. Franke was the earliest of the BMWs, I think, to go into the pit lane. So he gained 1 spot, and Simon Speth gained 1 spot also, as he doesn't go defensive and leaves the door open for Abdelhadi in the virtual battle for the lead of the BMW M235i class. Still side by side, small contact.
A bit more touching, actually. What I thought happened was that Speth just kind of gave up that position really down the inside. He kind of didn't. And they keep on battling through. Down the straightaway they go, still side by side, these two. But actually Abdelhadi will save a bit of distance as he goes down into turn 1. Just needs to get the braking right. And if he can make the corner, just about goes too wide. And actually Speth can come back at him, but maybe not. I think it's going to be on the edge as they'll go into the left-right section here. Speth still kind of on the inside, pushes Abdelhadi to go a little bit wider, tries to get the switchback, but big slide from Simon Speth that really slowed down his momentum. And through the left they come. I think this is going to be finally game over as Abdelhadi gets back into the lead of this race.
And as these two were battling, our GT3 class leader, Matas Mendeles, went into the pit lane. He was losing time to Lee O'Brien. The gap was disappearing, so maybe that's why Matas Mendeles decided to call it the day and go into the pit lane maybe earlier than he would have wanted. And the battle is still not over between the two BMWs. Oh, Simon Speth goes sideways, and the gap between Grodinis and Mendeles is 15.5 seconds, so we're pretty close with the assumption. And 1 minute 44.9 for Grodinis. He can see the time difference between himself and Matas Mendeles. Now it's all on him to try and chase down Matas in the battle for the win of the final race. That's hard to imagine, 15 seconds in the 15 minutes, but don't forget, Grodinis is on fresh tires. Matas Mendeles is on same set of tires that he started this race off, so his pace will not regain. He will not regain pace. He will not become faster. He just needs to stay calm as possible. And Grodinis is the one to push the nerves out of Matas Mendeles. And don't forget Lee O'Brien. He remained on the racetrack, but he went into the pit lane now. Why do they enter the pit lane so early? And it always makes me wonder why the guys don't want to have a split out strategy during this race. They always tend to choose the safer option when we have a one-on-one battle. But that's going to be a very interesting sight. Matas Mendeles was roughly 2.5 seconds in front of Lee O'Brien. The gap was disappearing. The gap was melting down before Matas Mendeles went into the pit lane, so that's going to be interesting. O'Brien is back on the racetrack. Mendeles goes around him, so look at the gap. It's currently only 1 second, but don't forget, slightly colder tire. It's not a cold tire, it's still the same tire, but it gets cooled down slightly as they lose pace in the pit lane. Yep, and the gap is currently extending in favor of Mendeles. As Grodinis, well, his previous lap time was not too impressive, 1:45.3. Doesn't seem to be the pace needed to chase down the cars in front in the remaining 13.5 minutes. So it looks like it's going to be a battle between Mendeles and O'Brien in the GT3 class, as we have a battle between Abdelhadi and Speth, as Tarcelli is still yet to go into the pit lane. He will definitely lose that lead, and most likely he will drop down to the final spot in the M235i class, as he will make his final pit stop. Abdelhadi runs a little bit wide in between turns 17 and 18. There's a chance for Simon Speth. He has the run. Currently in the slipstream of the BMW in front as we approach Variante Tamburello corner. We just need to deal with this very long straight of the Imola racetrack. Abdelhadi goes defensive. Simon Speth goes on the outside a little bit too late. Has a very quick snap of oversteer. Brakes earlier, wise thing to do.
Speth was surprised by how slow Abdelhadi was down the straight. He finds the gap finally as they come through. Tamburello now into Villeneuve. They've got a GT3 coming past that actually blocks them in a little bit. It maybe opened up a little bit of a gap for Abdelhadi, and as last time Speff got sideways on the exit of Villeneuve, this time it's Abdelhadi who gets sideways. The lead has switched back. The virtual lead, because Tarchali is still in the actual race lead, but these two will filter out to the front of the field unless they battle too much and then actually lose that position even with the pit stop for Tarchali. But Abdelhadi getting closer and closer again. So this battle, I think, far from over. Grodinis, by the way, looking at the GT freeze.
It's actually O'Brien who made a mistake. I was looking at the gaps between Mendelis, O'Brien and Grodinis, and O'Brien had to make a mistake somewhere on his outlap, maybe on this first flying lap after that pit stop, but the gap is extending between O'Brien and Mendelis, and it's melting between Grodinis and O'Brien. 11 minutes on the clock, so that's roughly 6 laps to go. 9 seconds. We need to wait out and see the actual timings of the drivers who came back on the racetrack after the pit stops. 144.7 for Grodinis, 145.3 for Mendelis. O'Brien should be somewhere around 145.5 if he makes no mistakes. So that 8/10 difference per lap time doesn't seem to be very promising for Grodinis, unless the tires for the medium guys, the guys who run with the mediums, unless the tires wear out a little bit quicker than expected, it's not looking good for Grodinis.
No, I don't think the Grodinis can come back to this. I think it's more a risk that he'll just lose more time. He won't lose more positions. Przybyłka is 40 seconds behind. That's too big of a gap to catch up, whatever happens to Grodinis.
And he just lost out a couple of seconds, well, maybe 1.5 seconds. He was stuck with that BMW by the looks of it. By the way,
Abdelhadi, by the way, lost a lot of time.
Yep, and Tarchali went into the pit lane, and as we have guessed, he's down in the final spot as Simon Speth managed to extend that lead to 2 seconds. So looks like Abdelhadi maybe losing out a little bit with the traffic. He was already overtaken by Matas Mendelis. He's now being overtaken by Lee O'Brien. Maybe it did have something to do with the traffic. And again, he wanted to take that apex, but there was no place to go nowhere near that apex, because on the inside there was a very orange Ferrari driven by O'Brien, and that's what you have in the multi-class racing. Look, another second lost by Abdelhadi, definitely not happy about it, as O'Brien goes around Simon Speth with no problems whatsoever. So Speth didn't lose any time in the traffic, and it looked so promising for Abdelhadi up until that moment, as he decided to take that pit stop first of the BMWs. But it is what it is. The race is still not over. 3 seconds look a lot. And I'm not sure if one can change something about it. The drivers seem to be really stable on the pace on their own, while they're running on their own. So Abdelhadi needs to focus on the job for himself and simply hope for the best. There's still some traffic in play, and that might help Abdelhadi this time out, as Grodinis goes around Abdelhadi and goes to chase down Speth. And look at the lap times of O'Brien and Grodinis, and actually Matas Mendelis, they lost out so much while dealing with the traffic. Wow. O'Brien 3 seconds per lap slower than the usual pace, what they do when running on their own. So is for Dominikas Grodinis, who tries to chase down O'Brien at least. but it doesn't look too good. Looks like the soft tire strategy didn't work out once again for Dominykas Graudinis.
I think also this time he's been a little bit more careful because he saw how quickly he burned up the first set. So I think he just kind of tried to be maybe a little bit more careful, and that actually hurt him in the end.
Yeah, most likely.
Well, hurts him now because he's just losing time and not catching up pretty much at all. Well, he's not catching up at all, he's losing time even. Well, so not finding the pace with the soft tire and not extracting the pace, because if you're running the same pace as the mediums, clearly the soft is not the correct tire.
Yep, it's basically game over for Dominykas Graudinis, and unless he finds at least 2.5 seconds advantage per lap. We only have 6.5 minutes on the clock, as Przybylka receives a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Time is running out for Graudinis. It looks like he has the pace. Look at the gap. Sometimes it just melts down really quickly, and sometimes it extends even. I'm not sure what from that depends, rather it's mistakes that the driver keeps doing, or the different compound working a little bit differently on different parts of the racetrack.
I think it all adds up, really.
Yeah, but he needs to be much faster if he wants to gain or chase down O'Brien. Well, it looks like it's game over for the win in the GT3 class. I wonder where the pace of O'Brien went. Both of the drivers, Mendelis and O'Brien, they basically made a very short splash and dash pit stop. Maybe it was Mendelis who was just thinking about the tires. He was driving really calm before he went into the pit lane. It was not that Leo O'Brien was much faster because he was gaining on Mendelis. Maybe it was Mendelis who was playing a strategic game, going slightly off pace, going slower, thinking about the tires towards the end of the race, allowing O'Brien to think that he's finally faster, and maybe that allowed or forced O'Brien to go slightly faster and abuse the tires a little bit more. And maybe that's where the advantage came for Matas Mendelis on these closing stages of the final round. Look at the pace. Matas Mendelis 145.4 versus 145.2. Graudinis with new set of softs, Mendelis on old set of mediums.
Yep, it looks like the medium has definitely been the tire of choice here today, because the guys are going, well, they're going a little bit quicker even. So it's not the fastest lap of the race. This is Graudinis gets a big slide on, but I think the soft was very good in the first few laps, getting the temperature up quickly, but I think it just gets it maybe a little bit too quickly. Doesn't have enough time to cool down this tire. It really is corner after corner in hard braking zones and difficult braking zones. The first sector of the lap quite quick, so a lot of load on the tires with not that many straights to actually cool them down. That's the issue here, and that's why I think Graudinis is struggling. He took the same strategy as he did around Hockenheim, but this time it hasn't worked out as beautifully. So this is Frank, and this is the battle for a podium spot in the M235i. Frank versus Rachmanian for P3. Speth has checked out in the lead of the class, ahead of Abdelhadi. So that early pit stop not working out in Abdelhadi's favor. It's Frank versus Rachmanian with just 3 minutes to go in this one.
Yep, and that's hards versus mediums. This time Franke on a softer compound compared to his rival, looking a little bit stronger towards the end of this race. I think it was the same strategy for both drivers, just a splash and dash, and both drivers remain on the same compound, but it looks like the drivers running on hards, they chose the safer option, well, to have a chance to make small mistakes, abuse the tire a little bit more, while Franke chose the slightly softer tire, and he needed to care and look after it a little bit more careful throughout the race. And there's a disconnection for Rahmanian. It looked like Rahmanian made a big mistake and went straight into the wall, but that's actually how it looks when the driver has connection issues, and this is a problem for Franke as he chases down Rahmanian, who seems to be having connection issues. He's back on the racetrack, but you never know when a similar issue will reappear for the driver that you try to chase down when the time runs out. Oh, and Przybyłka, he was just disqualified for some issues with the drive-through penalty. Well, the system caught up that the driver didn't take the drive-through penalty. But looking at the timing sheets, it looks like Przybyłka made 2 stops, so I'm not sure what's that about. Maybe some sort of issue with the system. Przybyłka still on the track, still looks to be running on the grid. As we stay on the laps of Franke, who tries to chase down Rahmanian, and we should try and figure out if we're on the final lap or...
I guess we have one more at the end of this one, because I think we'd see a last lap board come up.
Yeah, that's gonna be close.
The gap between O'Brien and Grodinis has come down.
Yep, looks like O'Brien just made a mistake because the previous lap time was on par. Well, 6/10, it's not too big of a difference. And there's gonna still be time because Matas Mendelis should cross the line before the time runs out. So that should be the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix of the race.
Yep. He'll start the next lap once he crosses the line pretty soon. The M235i battle we were watching, that will go on for another lap. Mendelis will not lap them this time. He's a bit too far away. Mendelis will start the final lap of this season as champion-elect, pretty much. He just needs to not get disqualified now. And, well, I don't think that's too difficult of a task, as actually Przybyłka finally gets disqualified. Well, finally, I mean, he gets disqualified and gets removed from the circuit.
Yep.
Looking at that M235i battle, still close, but not close enough to make a move from Frank just yet.
And they are on the penultimate lap, so they have 1.5 lap on the clock. Both of the cars are really on same pace, so unless Rahmanian makes a big mistake, that's going to be a really hard job for Franke to get that podium spot for himself, as Matas Mendelis is in the middle of the final lap. Grodin is 2.9 seconds behind O'Brien. O'Brien lost roughly 1.5 seconds on the previous lap. It looks like it was a mistake, and still he is a little bit too far ahead of Grodinis to give him any chance of taking that P2 on the final race. As Matas Mendelis completes corner number 17, approaches turn number 18, and he will get on the straight sideways to take that checkered flag and be crowned as the Premium Endurance Challenge champion. Great job.
Takes that title, which was, well, just needed to take the flag, but he did more than that. He won the race as well. Leo Bryan, he's second in the championship, second in the race, as Dominikas Grodinis takes home a podium after starting on pole and looking very, very convincing. This is Simon Speff. He's going to take second in the M235i championship behind his dominant teammate Jan Nims, but Simon Speff will take second position, will win this race as well. This battle, well, I think it's kind of over unless Rahmanian makes a big, big mistake.
Yeah, but it's close, and it was like this for the past 5 or 10 minutes between Rahmanian and Franke. Franke is really close, but he misses out just a little bit of pace to try and get involved into some sort of a battle with Rahmanian. Both of the drivers running really well, avoiding bigger mistakes and keeping those positions to themselves. As Simon Speth comes out of the final corner onto the straight to take that checkered flag in the BMW class, to take that second position in the overall standings of the Premium Endurance Challenge M235i class as he celebrates to finish. And that's Rahmanian. Okay, Abdelhadi, I'm lost out a little bit. Abdelhadi looks to be finished already. Yep. No, actually Rahmanian taking P2 and Franke taking P3, so that's Abdelhadi, and he finished 4th. He lost out on the final lap of the race. I'm not sure. Wow. Yep, Abdelhadi finished 4th in the M235i class. Something went totally wrong for Abdelhadi on the final lap. I'm speechless, actually.
Sure if actually anything went really wrong here. I just need to check the math while you run.
So his final lap. So his final lap was 2 minutes 11 seconds compared to the 1 minute 57 that they usually do around the track in the BMW.
So, if my math is completely correct, which I'm not sure it is, but quickly running through it. There's an important thing to look at, that Rahmanian, Frank, and Abdelhadi are all part of the same attack team. I think with this result, this puts Rahmanian actually ahead of Tarchali in the standings.
Okay, clever. Yep, good tie.
Yep, I believe it does, by just a couple of points, but I think with Abdelhadi backing out, that's actually given the title over, the title P3 in the championship, over to his teammate, Rahmanian, who was the, only one realistically who could have taken that position. Nobody else could have. So, I think they've just played the perfect team game and gave his teammate a P3 in this championship.
That's the calculation. So maybe that's the decision. That's why Abdelhadi went to the pit lane earlier and didn't battle with Simon Speth. As soon as he lost the place, he kind of went backwards, and maybe that was the idea behind all of this, to give their teammate the position in the overall standings. Well, this is an endurance type of racing.
I'm gonna guess once he realized that he can't really do anything against Speth and can't really hold him up, I think he just dropped back and on that final lap just gave up that position.
Yep. They finished all one behind each other, Rahmanian, Franke, and Abdelhadi. So maybe that's why Franke didn't try and overtake Rahmanian on all the occasions that he might have had. This is an interesting outcome to a championship. So that's why we have some teams running here. This is like an endurance type of thing. 45 minutes race is not an endurance race, but you have all the teams, you have all the mandatory pit stops, and you have the strategy here. So the guys did a good job before the race to try and figure out who should finish in which position to get the best outcome in the championship. So congratulations to everyone who took place, everyone who has been crowned the champions or took the podium places, not only in this race but in the overall standings. To go quickly through the results of the final race, we have Matas Mendeles winning the GT3 class, O'Brien finishing second, Grodin is fourth, Grodin is third, and Essa fourth, as Przybyłko was disqualified for not taking the drive-through penalty correctly. Not sure what's that about. And Simon Speth took home the win of the M235i class and took the second spot overall in the class. Rahmanian finished second, Franke third, Abdelhadi fourth, Tarchali fifth, and Grashis looks like he started, but he went out quite early in the race. and didn't finish it. Yep, so that's about it. On our plans in the nearest future, January 11th, is it the big race of the Daytona 24 hours? Is it January 11th? I don't want
Yes,
to make a
Daytona
mistake.
is January 11th. So I think we'll have a couple of events before that, actually. I think the first week of January we'll be back with a couple of new series that I'm sure the guys at World Sim Series will announce. So keep your eye out on worldsimseries.com and on their socials and on the Discord server as well. So you should see some cool announcements about what's coming next in the world of World Sim Series.
Yep, and thanks for sticking with us this evening. Have a good rest, and see you in the next special events.
Have a good night.
And if we can't win, you should win.